Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another episode of Coptic Youth Radio Hour here on 92.3 FM, 3ZZZ, in association with CYC Tuned In, all our YouTube and CYC viewers. Your host, Michael Risk, and on the program today, we have Marina Gurgis.
Hello.
Thanks, Marina, for coming in. We got the Alias brothers, David, and we got Mina.
Nice to be here, guys.
Thanks, guys, for coming in. On the program today, we have a spiritual segment in which we talk about the story of how Rebecca met with Isaac and the faithful servant that was sent by Abraham to meet her. And in our social topic, we talk about comparing our lives with others and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. And we also have some beautiful hymns from the diocese, from our diocese here in Melbourne, the Archangel Michael Monastery for Nuns, titled The Fair Dove. It's a really beautiful CD, and we're also going to play that. And we'll also have a sermon as well, and diocese news. As always, you can listen to this program again on our SoundCloud account, or if you have a podcast application, just search Coptic Youth, and you'll find us there. And if you haven't liked our Facebook page yet, please do so. It's 92.3 FM, 3ZZZ, Coptic Youth Radio. That's it from us for now, but stay tuned. We're back here on Coptic Youth Radio Hour. Now it's time for our spiritual segment. And for this week, we wanted to talk about the story of Rebecca and Isaac in the Old Testament and how they met, and the servant who was the loyal servant that Abraham sent to the land of his fathers to find a wife for Isaac, in Rebecca. And there was a few little, we'll just share the story, and we'll sort of discuss it a bit more.
Yeah, so the story sort of goes, Abraham spoke to his servant, and he said to him, go and find a son for me, but not from the Canaanites, not from the people of this land, from the people of my own land. And then the servant went very faithfully, and he had with him the goods that he was going to give to them, like the dowry. And then he met the girl Rebecca. At before he saw her, he prayed a prayer. I don't know if you know what Marina was. He prayed to himself. He just said. He said, "Lord God, my father Abraham, let it be that the lass that gives me water for myself and for my camels, and then also says, let me give for your camels also. Let her be the girl." Yeah, that came after. He also said, like, he was very questioning. He was very unsure of when he goes back to the land if he was going to find anyone. Yeah. And in verse 8 it says, "And if the woman is not willing to follow you, then you will be released from this oath. Only do not take my son back there." So there was a lot of pressure. The servant felt there was a lot of pressure to find someone, and and Abraham told him, like, it's going to be all right. Like, the angel is going to go forth in front of you, and he will lead you. And that's when, it
shows
what you just said shows, like, they both had the same sort of faith with the agreement. So, like, Abraham sent the servant off with the point that the servant had the same faith. So, like, it's like they both sort of believed in God from the get-go. So it wasn't just Abraham by himself. Even his servants, the servants of his house, believed in God, which is something that I think stands out a lot.
Yeah, the servant, out of his own sort of free will, he believed as well in the faith that Abraham had in his God.
Yeah.
The servant was retelling the story, and he said, "But before I had finished speaking in my heart, saying the prayer that you said before, that I'm gonna be waiting at the well, and if there's, I'm gonna ask for water from one of the people that the girls that go there, and she's going to offer me water, and she's also going to offer my camels water as well."
Yeah.
And then he said, "But before I had finished speaking in my heart, there was Rebecca coming out with her pitcher on her shoulder, and she went down to the well and drew water. And I said to her, 'Please let me drink.' And she made haste and let her pitcher down from her shoulder and said, 'Drink, and I will give your camels a drink also.' So I drank, and she gave the camels a drink also." So
So it just shows they're all the same faith. They all believe in the same God, and it was, even when you look at later on the story, there was sort of like an understanding that they had, for that servant to rock up at that house. He was pretty much a stranger to them, but because they all believed in God, and they believed in the fact that they had that same faith, he could send his sister or Nahor's daughter off without any problems.
And the daughter, she was very happy, and then so she took him back to. He wanted to go back to her father and the brother and her family to tell her the reason why he's here, because at this stage they're probably thinking that she's probably thinking that the servant is the one that has all these jewelry and things, and he wants her, but he quickly wanted to let her know and let the family know that he was there for a purpose, and there was a reason why he was there. And I
want to say also the manner in which the servant spoke was a manner that's of honest, some honest manner. Some people you can just speak to them and you can tell that they're honest people. And he was very open with how he spoke. He spoke everything that was in his heart, and he spoke everything with an openness of heart. And that I see that sometimes in the Old Testament, in many of the stories in the Old Testament, with people that are really honest people and God-fearing people, and they're honest from the inside.
Yeah, if you read the whole chapter, it's Genesis 24. You find that it's a very long story, and because it's constantly repeating itself, kind of thing. And the servant is word for word saying everything that happened. So he's giving in detail every little detail, just because of how much faith he had in Abraham and Abraham's God, and how he valued the oath that he was under.
Yeah, there's a certain humility about it, just the way he spoke.
Yeah,
but and then of course after that you've got Sarah agreeing. So they had the parent. They met the parents. They met the family. They met the family and all that. Said all the talk. And but before they they were going to give food. He said, "But before you give me food, I want to tell you what happened." So that's when he told them the story.
Yeah.
And then what happened after that was
in verse 49. Then he says, "There now, if you will deal kindly and truly with my master, tell me. And if not, tell me that I might turn to the right hand or to the left." And then in 55, but her brother and mother said, "Let the young woman stay with us a few days, at least 10. After that she may go." And he said to them, "Do not hinder me, since the Lord has prospered my way. Send me away so that I may go to my master." So they said, "We will call the young woman and ask her personally." So all of this, the parents, they wanted her to stay a bit. They didn't want her to go quickly straight away. But the servant was like, "I'm under an oath here."
Natural.
We need to go and things like that. And then this is the most important part. In verse 58, it said, "Then they called Rebecca and said to her, 'Will you go with this man?' So they gave her the free option. this is all her free will. There was no, the parents didn't hold her back. The servant was never pushing her or anything like that. The servant was there on a purpose, on a mission, and he wanted to fulfill that oath. And in the next part it said, and she said, I will go. So she went on her own free will. There was no pressure was put on her to stay or to go. It was just
it's a bit of courage from her part, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's courage. It shows like that this was, God had planned this, and like we all sort of have that purpose in our life. We all have that mission. And
I've heard one of this is just a bit of a sidetrack, but I've heard some stories of people who were who've come to the Christian faith and they've had to leave families and stuff, but it's particularly hard for when girls have to do it, and they have to leave their family and the support and the financial support and everything that they've got with that, and then go back and re-establish themselves, re-establish their lives. And it's some of them give them an account of what they've gone through on YouTube and whatnot, and you hear some of their stories, and it's just a feat of courage that they have, and it's the same sort of thing that with Rebecca.
Yeah,
I feel
it's so true. Like Rebecca was going to be responsible for the pretty much the Israelites. She was going to be like the mother after Sarah kind of thing to support Isaac and and go forth, spread the nation. And
she's going to leave her whole family and everything behind her, so she's not going to have any of her family anymore.
Something I found interesting was a bit earlier in the chapter. He says Abraham says he will send his angel before you, and you shall take a wife for my son from there. So he was so sure and like so trusting in God that God would be there. So the servant also saw how much Abraham trusted in God.
And then he used that for himself.
I think that also helped the servant to obey the master.
It's a really amazing story, and of course after that Rebecca accepted, and she took her maid with her, and they went and they met Isaac, and but I found it really interesting how the concept of free will was in this story, how she chose by herself, no pressure was put on her, and to leave her family, to leave everything and to go. Like the servant left her, he just told her the purpose why he was there, and then the family as well, they left it up to her as well, and it was her own decision to leave all that and to accept what the servant was telling her, and to go with the servant to meet Isaac. There's a few good lessons there. Let us know what you guys think on our Facebook page, or let us know, leave us a comment. 92.3 FM, 3ZZZ Coptic Youth. Stay tuned.
And welcome back to Coptic Youth Hour on 3ZZZ Radio. And now it's time for our social segment. Today we'll be discussing, the advantages and disadvantages of, whether or not, we compare our lives to others and, compared to kind of different status that people have, and whether or not that influences our mindset and how we go about, how we go about that when we kind of compare and see others in different situations, or have different certain titles that we want to achieve. Interesting topic that I think is probably relevant for all of us.
We always fall into this trap of trying to compare our lives or what we have to others. For example, our job or the car we drive. And sometimes if you see a friend of yours or someone more successful than you in a career or in a job, it gets you down, and you ask God, why aren't I doing good in this? Like, why you gotta you punching me? I come to church, I do this. Like, why is this person has a good career and earning good money and I'm not, kind of thing. We fall into this trap a lot. Same with cars. Like, why am I driving this car and my friend's driving a really nice car? Like, we always try and compare. And what do you guys think? Like, is comparing, can that have advantages or disadvantages, or like is it all right to compare? Is it not all right to compare? Does it make you better? Does it make you strive for better if you're comparing? If you're not doing so well, what do you think, Marina?
I think if it's to build you up, if it's not destructive, like if you're not, for example, comparing yourself and it's not helping you work harder, then that's not good. But if it's to help you work harder and to achieve more and to help you move forward, then I think if you're learning from others, learning their good qualities, then that's not bad.
Yeah.
It brings to me to mind one of the things that St. Paul was saying. He says, although I burn with indignation, like he was very indignant, which means like to burn with passion or something about something that someone else has or something someone else possesses. And even St. Paul went through the same thing. And he says, even though I burn with indignation. And he was always comparing himself to the other apostles. He said, I'm even like able to be called up upon the most eminent apostles. So he's saying, I should be able to be called amongst even the best apostles. So he's always comparing himself to others, but in a spiritual sense. So yeah, I think regardless, people do this. Like people always, even St. Paul was comparing himself. So I think even like people everyone compares themselves with others without without
knowing or noticing, or
without noticing, yeah.
But like can't it be detrimental? Like sometimes you're looking at someone else and they have this really nice car and you're not driving such a fancy car as well. Doesn't it make you start complaining and like doubting, say, your faith in God, or like making you think like, oh man, like I'm doing all these services and things and I'm going to church, but
I think at the end of the day, it comes down to your relationship with Christ. It's very important to understand the grace that Christ gives us, and we know that Jesus says, my grace is sufficient for you. So he coming down to your relationship with Christ and having faith in what he provides and the blessing that he provides for you, and understanding that really that's enough for that particular individual, at that particular time. So, if you have a proper, strong bond with Christ, you're going to be the type of individual that understands that sort of a concept. If you really don't have, much of a relationship with Christ, and it doesn't mean, you're not going to church or anything. You may be going to church, but really, are you connecting with Christ? Are you, have you taken that relationship with him to another level where you really start to understand, his blessings in your life? And if you do have that bond, you really will be content with, with what you have, and you won't, compare yourself to others. Marina raised a really good point about how, it depends on what we do with it. If it's constructive, it's not constructive, and that's completely right. Like if it's something that you use to better yourself and to build yourself, then that's really good. But if it's really just out of envy, then you really don't have faith in Christ that He's got His will planned out for you in the right manner. And I think that's the most detrimental thing, because you lose your faith in Christ, and your relationship starts to fall apart.
And a priest is saying, like, when you compare yourself, you need to look at the whole picture. So, for example, they might have a better car than you, but maybe their relationship with their parents isn't that good, or maybe they don't have a good family, or maybe they don't have other things that you have and you don't see that. So you don't compare everything.
Yeah.
I want to. So there's a psalm that speaks about this thing in particular that I brought to mind. It's Psalm 73, and it talks about the boastful. And it says, "For I was envious of the boastful when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For there are no pangs in their death, but their strength is firm. They are not in trouble as other men, nor are they plagued like other men." And then he goes on to say, "Their eyes bulge with abundance. They have more than heart could wish for." So sometimes someone can be boastful of what they have, and someone could boast with like a really cool car or just whatever, in whatever way, the way he talks, the way he shows himself, or just like what it says here, their eyes bulge with abundance, like you can see in their eyes. So
it's all
some people are just like that, and it's hard to make a relationship between these people and the people that the haves and the have-nots, people that don't have, because the people that don't have, obviously they're going to be, obviously they're trusting in God, like what Mina said, and having a relationship with Christ, but it just still sort of, like what if they got like a physical illness or physical pain or anything like that, then it's not so much. It's like it's very hard in that term, in terms of that. But I think it's very much a boastful thing. Some people are just boastful, and so that's a very bad thing, a very detrimental thing. They're not in trouble as other men, like the psalm says. Like they don't feel it as much as others.
All these are pretty much worldly sort of positions. Our goal sort of in life is to focus all our energy on becoming closer to God and attaining and having the number one goal in our life is to attain heaven. And we try to do that in our everyday life. And I think things like worldly possessions and all of that stuff, it's like a luxury that we have. And we shouldn't let that be. We shouldn't really get jealous or envious of people who have these things, because our ultimate goal is to go to heaven. So at the end of the day, if you have nothing and someone else has more than you, we're both having the same death, and we're not taking nothing with us into our next life. So I think if that stops you, if you're comparing your life with others and it's detrimental to you and it's making you envious and jealous and all these negative things, and it stops you from getting closer to God, then that's not good. But if it's having the opposite effect, if you're looking at a successful person and saying, I want to attain that, like you were saying, in the right way kind of thing, it helps. It can be a source of motivation. So if someone has that good job or got that promotion or has that nice car, it should make you not feel jealous or envious or anything like that. It should make you feel like, I want to work harder. What can I do? I need to take things into my own hands and try to build myself in order to have these luxuries in life. But again, like that's not the priority in life. The priority is to have the number one goal is to be able to get to heaven.
Yeah, Mick, it's a very interesting topic, you know what I mean? Like, and I think, we spoke about it from a spiritual sense, but really from a practical sense, if you're to reflect on a topic like this, I think it's, it goes without saying, like those people who are less stressed and more successful, more confident in themselves, are really those that don't rely on other people and their happiness. So the true happiness from within really is not dependent on anyone else. So it's very important when certain things like this, because at the end of the day different people have different agendas. Okay, there's they've got different agendas, different goals in their lives. It'll be very, very tough to put one specific aspect of their life and then compare yourself to that, based on a different kind of journey that you've had. And if you keep doing that, you're just going to end up disappointed. And it's just going to be, completely, destructive and detrimental for your own psyche. So if we don't talk about your relationship with Christ, and we talk about it from a practical sense, I think it's just there's really no logical or successful way to be able to compare yourself and then actually get a good outcome out of it. I guess to end my saying, I would say just never ever let your happiness be dependent on other people.
It's sort of like it harbors hate kind of thing if you have that mindset.
One of the things that I would say, like sometimes people don't, like with the practical point of view, people don't have a job, and that's very, very hard, but they're also the best stories when you like that because there's people that rely on God and trust in God, and then they could not be having a job for such a long time. And that's when it really tests your faith, It really tests your faith to hang on there and trust in God, trust what He's going to do. And they're also the best stories that, like I've heard when people say, I've gone without a year and a half without work, and then I just got a job, and it was from God. And someone else, I'm married, and I just got married, and it's been a whole year, and I couldn't find work. So it's their testament to people's faith in God. They spent a year or year and a half not getting a job, but that's their faith in God. That's their faith that they have in God, because they're the people that are lowly and the people that might not have as much or whatever, and then they're putting their trust in God. They always know God's going to come through for them. They know that God's a provider. Every good gift you receive comes from my hand, and they know this, so they're trusting in Him. So that's just one thing to keep in mind for the people that don't have as much. And
I think we should always be thankful for what we do have, and not always unthankful for what we don't have. In the book of Mark, chapter 11, verse 24, it's a really nice verse that says, "Therefore I say to you, whatever things you ask when you pray, believe that you receive them, and you will have them." So it's saying, like, when you pray for something that you want, but it's already received. So pray for that job promotion that you got, even though you didn't get it, but you know that God is going to give it to you.
Yeah.
So it's sort of praying in advance kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that was a really good point, like that Abuna Michael and Abuna Samir sort of they shared with us.
I heard someone say that be thankful at the time for something that you haven't even received yet.
Yeah.
So you're just as if you're thanking God for something that's already happened. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really important, like to have that mindset in prayer.
Yeah.
Not to always ask for, give me this. Just be thankful for,
That's very strong faith.
Yeah. We'll leave it at that. Thanks guys for that discussion. Stay tuned. And that's all the time we have for you guys. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks, Marina, for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave and Mina. Really appreciate you guys coming in. Hope you
enjoyed it.
Hope you enjoyed the discussions. As always, you can listen to this program again on our Facebook page, 92.3 FM, 3ZZZ Coptic Youth, or subscribe to our SoundCloud, subscribe to our podcast. Just search Coptic Youth Radio on iTunes or anything like that. And we're also on SoundCloud, so Coptic Youth Radio.
And thanks, Mickey, for your wonderful work.
Thanks, Mina, for coming in. You're a legend. We had a late cancellation, and you stepped in, you and Dave. So we really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. And catch you guys next week.